The wind howled across the Golden Gate Bridge that December evening, carrying with it the salt spray of San Francisco Bay and the weight of Jennifer, Morrison's 28 years. Her fingers gripped the cold metal railing until her knuckles turned white, her body trembling not from the biting cold, but from the decision that had brought her here. Below, the dark waters churned and beckoned, promising an end to the student loans she could never repay. The eviction notice crumpled in her jacket pocket, and the devastating phone call from her mother's hospice nurse that morning. Nobody would miss her, she thought. Nobody would even notice she was gone. She was wrong. Jennifer had planned this moment for 3 weeks. Ever since the pharmaceutical company laid her off without severance, citing restructuring. That same day, her boyfriend of 4 years sent a text, not even a call. Just a text, saying he'd moved out and taken the dog. The dominoes had been falling for months, but that day they'd finally crashed completely. Her savings account showed $47.23, her mother's experimental cancer. Treatment cost $8,000 per session. The math was simple and devastating. The bridge had always terrified her, which made it feel like the right choice somehow. Face your fears one last time, she'd thought darkly. She'd waited until dusk, when the tourist crowds thinned and the commuters rushed, home to families and warm dinners. She'd walked to the center span, her steps slow and measured, each one feeling both impossible and inevitable. Now, standing at the railing with the fog rolling in like a grey curtain, Jennifer closed her eyes and tried to find the courage to lift herself up. Her heart hammered against her ribs. This was it. This was how her story ended, not with the happy ending she'd imagined as a little girl playing dress-up in her mother's closet, but with silence and surrender. "Excuse me, miss." The small voice cut through the wind like a bell. Jennifer's eyes snapped open, and she turned to see a little girl, no more than 7 years old, standing a few feet away. She wore a pink, puffy jacket with a unicorn patch on the sleeve and held a crumpled paper bag in her mittened hands. Her dark eyes were wide and earnest, her cheeks flushed from the cold. "You shouldn't stand so close to the edge," the girl said matter-of-factly. "My mama says it's dangerous." Jennifer's throat tightened. She looked around frantically for the child's parents, but the nearest people were at least 50 yards away, hurrying toward their cars. "Where's your mom, sweetheart?" she managed to ask, her voice hoarse. "She's coming." She stopped to tie my brother's shoe. The girl stepped closer, seemingly oblivious to the gravity of what she'd interrupted. "Are you okay? You look really sad." Jennifer felt tears spring to her eyes. How could she explain to this innocent child that no, she wasn't okay, that she hadn't been okay for a very long time? "I'm fine," she lied, but the words came out broken. The little girl tilted her head, clearly unconvinced. Then, with the kind of spontaneous generosity that only children possess, she thrust the paper bag toward Jennifer. "Here, these are for you." "What?" Jennifer blinked, confused. "Cookies. My mama and I made them for people who look like they need something sweet. Mama says sometimes people just need to know someone cares." The girl shook the bag insistently. "Please take them. We made extra." Jennifer stared at the offering, her mind reeling. This child, this complete stranger, had noticed her pain and wanted to help in the only way she knew how. With cookies. The absurdity and beauty of it crashed over her like a wave, and she found herself taking the bag with shaking hands. "Thank you," she whispered. The girl beamed. "You're welcome. Oh, and miss, whatever you're worried about, it's gonna be okay. My mama says that everything looks darker before it gets light again, like right before the sun comes up. You just gotta wait for the sunrise." Before Jennifer could respond, a woman's voice called out, "Maya! Maya, don't run ahead like that." A harried-looking mother appeared, pushing a stroller with a toddler inside. When she saw Maya talking to Jennifer near the railing, relief and concern flashed across her face. "I'm so sorry," the woman said, reaching for Maya's hand. "She gets away from me sometimes." Then, looking more closely at Jennifer's face and position, her expression shifted to something deeper, understanding, perhaps, or recognition. She'd seen that look before, in her own mirror during the darkest period of her life. "Are you all right?" the woman asked gently, her voice low enough that Maya couldn't hear over the wind. Jennifer opened her mouth to lie again, but something in the woman's eyes stopped her. They were kind eyes, knowing eyes, eyes that had seen suffering and survived it. "I don't know," Jennifer admitted, the first honest words she'd spoken in weeks. The woman glanced at her daughter, then back at Jennifer. "Maya has a gift for finding people who need a little light. She insisted we come to the bridge today, said she had a feeling someone needed cookies." She paused, choosing her words carefully. "I don't know what you're going through, but I know what it's like to stand at the edge. I was there 5 years ago, after my husband died, and I was drowning in medical bills with 2 babies. A stranger helped me then, just sat with me in the hospital parking lot and listened. Didn't try to fix everything, just listened." Jennifer's vision blurred with tears. "I don't know how to come back from this," she confessed, her voice barely audible. "Everything's fallen apart. My mom is dying. I lost my job. I'm being evicted. I can't see a way forward." "I know," the woman said simply. "But you're still here. You're still breathing. That means there's still a chance." She reached into her purse and pulled out a business card. "This is the number for the crisis center where I volunteer now. They have resources, emergency housing, job placement, even help with medical bills. Please call them. Please give them a chance to help you." Maya tugged on her mother's coat. "Mama, is the lady going to be okay?" The woman looked at Jennifer with a question in her eyes. Jennifer looked down at the little girl's hopeful face, at the bag of homemade cookies in her hands, at the business card being offered to her. She thought about her mother, who'd always told her to look for the helpers, to be the helper when she could. What would her mother think if she gave up now? Slowly, Jennifer stepped back from the railing. "Yeah, sweetheart," she said to Maya, her voice thick with emotion. "I think I'm going to be okay." The relief on the woman's face was palpable. "Can I give you a ride somewhere?" "Maybe to the crisis center. They have walk-in hours until 9. Jennifer nodded, not trusting herself to speak. As they walked toward the parking lot, Maya slipped her small hand into Jennifer's free one, chattering about the cookies and how they'd used chocolate, chips and butterscotch chips, because those were the best combination. The crisis center was warm and brightly lit, staffed by people who looked at Jennifer with compassion rather than judgment. Within 2 hours, she had an appointment with a social worker, information about emergency housing, and 3 job leads. The counselor she spoke with listened to her story without interruption, then helped her see options she'd been too desperate to notice. "Your mother's treatment might qualify for a compassion grant," the counselor explained. "And there are programs that can help with rent mediation, buy you some time. It's not going to be easy, but it's not hopeless either." Hopeless. Jennifer realized she'd been living in that word for so long that she'd forgotten what hope felt like. But sitting in that office, eating one of Maya's cookies, she felt something shift inside her chest. Not happiness exactly, but possibility. That night, she called her mother from the shelter bed the crisis center had arranged. "Mom, I'm okay," she said, and meant it for the first time in months. "And I'm going to make sure you're okay too." The weeks that followed were hard. Jennifer won't pretend they weren't. The job search was brutal, the temporary housing was cramped, and the paperwork for her mother's grant assistance was overwhelming. But every time she felt herself slipping back into that dark place, she remembered Maya's words. "Everything looks darker before it gets light again. You just gotta wait for the sunrise." She kept the business card in her wallet, and the memory of that little girl's kindness in her heart. She called the crisis hotline twice more when the nights got too long and the fears too loud. Each time, someone answered and reminded her that she wasn't alone. 3 months later, Jennifer started a new job as a lab technician at a biotech startup. It paid less than her old position, but they offered good health insurance and treated their employees like human beings. Her mother's grant came through, covering 6 months of treatment. The cancer was responding slowly but surely. And on the first Saturday of her new job, Jennifer did something she'd been planning since that December evening. She bought ingredients and baked cookies, chocolate chip and butterscotch chip, the best combination. Then she drove to the Golden Gate Bridge, not to say goodbye to the world, but to say hello to it. She set up a small folding table with a sign that read, "Free cookies and conversation. You matter." She didn't know if anyone would stop, but within minutes, a teenage boy approached, tears on his face. "I really needed this," he said quietly, taking a cookie. "So did I once," Jennifer replied. "Want to talk about it?" As the sun set over the bay, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold, Jennifer shared cookies and stories with strangers who needed someone to notice them, to care about them, to remind them that sunrise always follows the darkness. She couldn't save everyone, she knew that. But maybe, like Maya, she could offer a little light to someone standing at their own edge. Because sometimes salvation comes in the smallest packages, in the form of a 7-year-old girl with a bag of homemade cookies and an unshakable faith in human goodness. Sometimes the thing that saves us isn't grand or dramatic, but simple and sweet. The reminder that someone, somewhere, cares whether we make it through the night. Jennifer made it through, and now she was helping others do the same, one cookie at a time.